The Control Omo function gives the graphic operator control of the Omo function itself. So to demonstrate this, we'll use it in a couple of different scenarios here. And first, I'm just going to drag a group down into the scene tree, and this is going to be our main group of everything. So I'm actually going to slide another group inside of this group, and this is going to be our Omo group. So I'm just going to type in our Omo there. And first, I'm just going to use this with 3 built-in objects, let's say. So I'm going to drag a cube down, an eclipse down, and we can use a Nagi as well. And I can just throw some different materials. So I'm just going to drag some different materials down here that I have saved in my favorites. And I'm just going to leave the position as is. Maybe we'll scale it up a little bit so we'll see it a little bit better. And I'm going to go back into my built-ins, into my tools folder. And I'm going to drag the Omo down onto our Omo group. So when I click on the Omo, what this allows us to do is switch between each built-in object. Now, to be able to control this Omo within Trio, Viz Content Pilot, or Template Wizard, we need to actually use the Control Omo function. So if I go back into my control folder and drag this Omo onto the same container that has the Omo function, you can see that when we do that, it automatically adds this object. And when I click on my Control Omo, within the editor, we have our field identifier, we have our description. We also have a minimum value that we can set and a maximum value. By default, it's set to 0 and 1000. So we can leave it at 0, and let's say we can just only give them the option to go to 3. So I can save this scene here, and we'll just say Control Omo, and we'll go into Trio to test it out. So once in Trio, I'm going to come to my import scenes here, and I'm going to go navigate to where we saved our Control Omo. And I'm just going to drag this into our scene area here and double click on the scene. And within our tab fields here, we have one option. We have our Omo. And as we come up here into the editor, you can see we have this little text box. And as I change the number here, it just changes the built-in objects that we have set up in Viz Artist. So we jump back into Viz Artist and show you another example of how to use this. Now, we don't just have to use this with objects. We could actually come into our own objects that we created with Viz and just replace each one of these with various different objects. So instead of using our built-in objects, we could have this be used on objects that we created in external programs as well. And it would work the same way. We'd save the scene, go into Trio, and as we click through each one of these, it would allow us to change each object that we have set up within the scene. So let's get rid of this group for a second. We'll start a new group, and this will be our main group again. So how about I just name it main, and then I'll drag another group into here, and this will be our Omo group. Like I said, you don't just need to use it for objects, you can use it for images or fonts as well. So this time let's use it on some fonts. So I'm going to go navigate to a font folder, I'll drag a font down into here, and we'll set up like a multiple line scene here. So I have our fonts, and I can just drag this left, so we'll spread these fonts out a little bit. Well, we'll make this our first line, this is our last line. So to be able to change these or choose which line we want, we can use the Omo function, and I'll go back into my tools folder and drag this Omo onto it, so that now when we click on the Omo, it says visible containers here. When we click through it, we can choose which line we want. This time I'm going to say keep visible on, so as we click through each, it's going to keep the previous line visible. Now we're going to take one step further this time in the Control Omo function, in that we're actually going to control the text too. So I'm going to drag this control text down onto my first text thing. I'm going to give this one field identifier 2, because what I'm really going to do is then drag my Control Omo down and make this field identifier 1. So we'll do that right now. I'll drag this Control Omo down, we'll click on this, and we'll leave this at field identifier 1. We have our second field identifier set to our first line of text, and we'll make our second line of text here field identifier 3. So we'll type that in there, and our third line of text here will be field identifier 4. So we'll save this scene and take it into Trio and test this out as well. So once I'm in Trio, we already had this scene imported, so again I'm just going to right click on it and re-import here. And when I double click on it within the scene, now within the tab fields down here, we have 4 different options to change it. Our first option, or first field identifier, was our Omo. So first we can choose how many lines of text do we want. We want 1 line, we want 2 lines, or 3 lines. And this time it keeps all the lines visible as we change the number. So we have our field identifier 2, 3, and 4, which allows us to change each line of text. So we can come in here and change each line of text. And as I hit the tab key on my keyboard, I can tab down to the next line of text and tab down to the third line of text and type in something else. So that's using the Omo with text. Now you can use this with images as well. So if you want to set up the exact same scene with images and giving the operator the ability to switch images, you can do that with the Control Omo as well.